Cybersecurity is an important topic not only for companies, but also for us privately. Our guests will talk about different approaches and aspects worth paying attention to. And in conversation with Paweł Mroczkowski will participate Shrikant Gedada from Google, Sherif Nazif from AppLogic Networks, Marcel Fischer from BXC Security, Krzysztof Bronarski from Orange Poland, and Piotr Ziemba from Anzena.
Hello, hello. It's a pleasure to be on a panel again. I'm really glad for what is coming now for the next hour, and really thrilled for the guests we are having today. Because I must admit, for all the years, hi everyone, hi guys. I must admit to the beginning, I was over 17 years working as a CEO of various companies in production and in retail, and cybersecurity was always somewhere there, and it was bothering. It was like an insurance. You have to take care of it, but it's not really something you say, yay, today let's take care of that. But I see in the last 7-8 years with the approach and more permanent industry of things and the changes in the interworking of all the elements in our companies, and also in the switch more to the cloud-based solutions, that the cybersecurity becomes not only the technical part you have to take care of, it becomes part of the culture we are having, is a part of the daily conversations, it's quarterly meetings with our people, but it also updates and checking what's going on in the environment and outside of our companies. We are, of course, everybody knows what's going on in Russia and Ukraine and the threats coming from hackers from there. And I'm so glad I will be part of the talking today and moderating this, because I really want to understand what is the state of the cybersecurity today. And because in our public we have mostly CEOs and CTOs and production managers, I would love to also hear from you the practical approach. And to be honest, I am not an expert on cybersecurity. So I will try to check on you that we don't go too deeply, maybe in some technical issues. But let's start with the easy parts, and I will ask you to introduce yourself one by one with the role, maybe what you are doing currently, and how you are connected to the cybersecurity world. And let's start with Sri. My friend Srikant, the head of global strategic partnerships at Google Cloud.
Hello, good morning, everyone. Good evening, rather. My name is Shrikant Gedada. I'm based in the San Francisco Bay Area. That's why I'm saying good morning, but good evening to whoever is in different parts of the world. I have been in the cybersecurity space for 20 plus years. And it's always been an evolving space, always exciting, something new happening all the time. That keeps me on my toes always, always learning new things. So I'm excited to be in this space and excited to continue to be in this space. In my past life, I've been, I've set up the managed security service practice for a large global system integrator. I manage security operations for a large bank here in the US. I worked with a few startups. And since the last 4 years, I've been with Google Cloud, managing strategic security partnerships for them. So I'll pause there, hand it over to Pavel.
Thanks. Thank you that you are here. And I'm really curious on your perspective, because you will have probably, not only because of your location, but also in the depth you are seeing the technologies applied into the cloud, maybe some different point of views in the discussion today. Okay, let's jump to Marcel Fischer, the managing director of BXC Security.
Yeah, hello everybody. As already introduced, my name is Marcel. I'm one of the managing directors of BXC Security. We are a company that is focused very much on OT cybersecurity, so everything that is happening in the manufacturing space. Of course, there's always a relation to IT, so the layer there is super interesting for us as well. But we focus mainly on everything that is cybersecurity related in the manufacturing space, meaning design of architectures there, but also implementation and also managed cybersecurity services, where we look a lot into PKI, Zero Trust, and everything related to that. I'm in that space for more than 12 years by now. So at some point you stop counting, right? And BXC is now 4.5 years old. And yeah, we are very happy to be here and talk about this super interesting and fully also really exciting topic. I mean, it's my day-to-day work, so I love talking about that and yeah, dive into all of these topics.
That's great. And I must say, I talked to a lot of different cybersecurity companies, and I love the approach that the BXC is taking with human-centric approach. So it's quite a lot about the people working and not only the technology part. So I love to also hear your opinion from this perspective today. Okay, let's jump to Sharif. Sharif Nazif, he's Vice President for the region of Europe from AppLogic Networks. And quite amazing technology. I'm glad that you joined us. Please introduce yourself.
Thank you very much, Pavel. I'm very happy to be talking to this very respectable public group, and hopefully maybe we will get the chance to do this also in a physical format, although Pavel would promote the virtualization of this forum to make it easier. So I've been in the technology field for the last 25 years, first with Cisco for 16 and now AppLogic Networks. We've been looking at the cybersecurity side of the business, mostly from the network side. I did a big stance of my career with service providers, with telcos, and then I moved into the consolidated verticals, bringing the technology of the service providers into enterprise and supporting the enterprise to get up to speed, to have the same level of awareness, knowledge of what is coming from the network and the threats that are coming from the outside world into their campus. So hopefully we will be supportive. Back to Pavel.
That's great. Yeah, and I must say we will probably talk into the topics more, but I was fascinated by the solution AppLogic Networks is having to facilitate the movements of the traffic inside of network and enabling the control what's going on and also making some alerts. So it's go so much deeper and more interesting than I thought. It will be great to hear from you today. As next one, I would ask Piotr Ziemba. Piotr Ziemba is joining us from Anzena. Piotr.
Thank you. I would like to welcome everyone very warmly and welcome the esteemed group of panelists. I'm very pleased and happy to be able to participate in such event in such important and difficult times as we are having now. My name is Piotr Ziemba, and as a head of cybersecurity department at my company Anzena, I'm responsible for a number of implementation projects. I started my career almost 12 years ago, 13, and started as an automation engineer, as a programmer of PLC and HMI devices. And then I go into the IT areas where I make my competence in hardly network skills and go to security. As Anzena, we are an integrator of cybersecurity solutions in OT-ICS. We meet the requirements of our customers by helping to raise the level of cybersecurity of their industrial infrastructure, including critical infrastructure by following best practices and standards.
I'm glad to have you here, Piotr, because you have like a really practical approach to what's going on a production floor and how to implement it in a practical way. Yeah. And you are not only about IT, but also OT. So we have both technologicals with you. Yeah. And I think the same would work for Krzysztof, and I must say I was so surprised to see a few weeks ago. Okay, there will be Orange Polska on a panel, and I was network provider. What do they have to do with cybersecurity? Of course, they have to take care of it, but I didn't know that Orange have dedicated team for support on cybersecurity, and that you can actually help your customers or customers from other networks to take care about cybersecurity. But please tell us some words about yourself, and then we can jump also into the topic of Orange.
Yes, thank you, Paweł. Hello, everyone. Pleasure to be here. My name is Krzysztof Bronarski. You can call me Chris for your convenience. I'm representing Orange. I have 20 years experience in technology. Since 7 years, I'm into cybersecurity, and last 5 years, I was working closely in the field of OT, cybersecurity, and surprise, surprise, yes, Orange does have OT cybersecurity and cybersecurity, IT/OT services. I'm personally now responsible for building and developing OT cybersecurity portfolio.
Amazing, great. I mean, let's jump into the topics. We have only 1 hour for such a huge topic, and let's maybe start with a high view on this stuff. Shrikant, maybe you can start with telling us a little bit how you see the current threats that the companies are facing today. And I mean, you have such a deep insights also in the technology chosen for clouds, but also in the practical applications. And let's start the discussion maybe on that.
Yeah, thank you, Pavel. I mean, you put me in a difficult spot because to talk about threats, 1 hour is not enough. There's so much happening in this world of cybersecurity. But before I dive in, I just want to state that the views are my personal views. So take it at that. So, there are many threats facing companies today. I would say, for the benefit of this panel, I'd like to prioritize them. I assume everyone is from manufacturing, etc. I think the first one is ransomware. We are hearing about many companies being held to ransom by getting into their networks, encrypting their data, and demanding money to give out the encryption keys. So that's definitely top of mind for every CIO, every CISO these days. Second is phishing and social engineering attacks, where inadvertently, employees or users fall prey to baits that are set by hackers and then give out credentials or click on links, etc. So I would say for this purpose, end user education, what to do, what not to do, is of paramount importance in any company, individually, socially, everywhere across the world, right? What to do, what not to do, how to be cautious about what's coming into your inbox, what's coming into your text is very important. Third one is, for the purpose of this group, supply chain. So many of the manufacturing companies, I'm sure, depend on suppliers who are supplying to them components, software, modules, some kind of input that is going into the overall manufacturing process. So while a company might take every care to secure themselves, the suppliers, whatever they're supplying, could turn out to be a weak link if they're not properly secured. So that's very important. Fourth one is in terms of, this discussion wouldn't be complete without talking about AI. Fourth one is about AI cyber threats, in the sense that it's making it easier for hackers to use AI to automate many of the tasks that they would normally do. And then, even a small kid can use AI tools and techniques to get into somebody's network. So it's making it easier for everybody to attack and conduct breaches. And I would also add, again, IoT breaches. They're also getting, again, related to a little bit of supply chain. the smaller device, not just our servers and networks that are getting compromised, but even IoT devices which are exposed.
Okay. I think there's quite a lot of room maybe to some other thoughts from anybody else. Did Sri miss something?
I think, if I might speak up, I think this was a very comprehensive list to start with. I think it is also worth to look at what is actually changing in manufacturing that is allowing for all these threats to come in. We talked about ransomware, we talked about social engineering, and so on. And in the past, OT networks were mostly isolated networks. I mean, we used to talk about air-gapped networks and so on, which is debatable if it is, but in the end, we talked about very isolated networks. And what we're doing today is we are basically opening up the attack surface that can be used by attackers to all the threats that are out there in the IT network. So I think this is a very interesting perspective to look at that. So, I mean, we try to, of course, separate what is more important for the OT world, what is more important for the IT world. But in the end, with all the digitalization that we are implementing in modern manufacturing environments, we are, of course, also opening to all the threats that we see in the IT landscape. So we kind of also need to protect against all of these, which is, I think, an interesting perspective.
That's great. Very, very interesting. Krzysztof, can you?
Hello?
Yeah.
I think if I can say something more.
Of course.
In today fashion, what is about industry 4.0 for now, we're talking about pushing data from OT's areas to IT, to business. And I think this was the first implementation of threats in the OT environments. We have to open the networks which was not prepared for the security. I will talk maybe later about this, but most of industries facilities in Poland have a very, very big depth technology. So this technology depth is main reason of possibility of making an incident in this environment.
Okay, that's very interesting voice, because you said there's quite a big technology depth in the manufacturing companies, but before that I heard almost 80% of the stuff being on the side of the human, right? So like phishing and ransom and all this stuff. So how is the proportion right now in a real world? Maybe we can talk a little bit in that, Marcel. If you could jump into the topic on the right balance between investing in tech and maybe the culture or teaching people.
I think what is interesting, somebody already wrote that in the chat, that the human is always the weakest link, and you can see the weakest link on a lot of different levels, of course, coming up. So I think both sides are perfectly correct. So we have a lot of technical debt on one hand in the manufacturing space, simply because the life cycle of OT network components is so much longer. So IT usually being 3 to 5 years, manufacturing being 15 to 35 or sometimes even longer years. So this is why we built this technical debt. On the other hand, we have a lot of engineers that are extremely skilled in what they do, but they were never really exposed to the IT threats because they were not really relevant to them. And what is happening today is what we're seeing is that we are bringing a lot of technology into the manufacturing space, and this is usually happening. I like to look at that like a triangle. So we have the OT colleagues, you have the IT colleagues, and you have the management. And usually these types of changes, so the digitalization is driven by the management because they want to have the data, they want to have the digital twin to optimize. They want to have basically the data flowing into the ERP tool and so on. So they need the data flow. Then you have the OT colleagues that don't really want that type of mostly care that the manufacturing environment is running and that is producing the output that they have. And then you have the IT colleagues which are usually charged with, please implement that. And they usually don't necessarily want to touch the OT space because you suddenly need to touch all this legacy stuff. And this is, of course, quite uncomfortable. You don't really know how to operate that. You don't really know how to secure that. So what I think is really important when we talk about cybersecurity is that we bring all these three groups of interest on board to create a common vision on where you want to go. Because if you want to have data flows from the manufacturing to production, or also vice versa, you have to have everyone on board that you need to have the right technology stack in place and that you have the right mental mindset in place, because you suddenly need to operate your manufacturing way differently than you would have 5 years ago, 10 years ago. So this is all changing, and you need, if you want to do that, you need to come up with an entire program, from my perspective, to also change the culture on how you do that. Because technology is just a tiny little part, which is important, which is very important, don't get me wrong, but you need to operate that in a proper way. And therefore, I think the culture in the manufacturing space is super important to look at.
Yeah, that's quite important. But then the practical application is, okay, how do I do it? How do I approach the change in the culture? Where do I start with this? Right?
Yeah,
I know
absolutely.
we talked about this before with you, Piotr. Maybe you can jump also on that. How are we starting introducing this type of elements?
Yes, it's a very good question, but the answer can often be different depending on a situation. In that case, we have to approach the customer individually. First of all, typical enterprise should realize or be made aware by outside companies, such as through an audit of both IT and OT ICS, at what level they are at now. The purpose of audits is to verify procedures, identify critical areas, vulnerabilities in network and system architecture, demonstrate CV vulnerabilities, inventory assets, and identify a cybersecurity roadmap, assuming milestones that need to be met to get to the point called we are secure as we can be, because we never be 100 secure. Hackers are constantly looking for new vulnerabilities, new potential and attacks vectors. On the other hand, if you want to talk about cybersecurity, there is no cybersecurity without well-designed backbone network and the use of enterprise-class devices, managed, of course, including UTM, core and access switches, devices, and implemented segmentation based on firewalling. In security, transparency of the environment for administrator, but not for hackers, is a key. A good basic is the foundation for further enhancing cybersecurity. And I would say such devices like IDS and IPS can help us to increase our knowledge of what's going on in our network. Providing a copy of traffic from switches to IDS ports allow us to very quickly analyze and detect anomalies that are untypical of the learned behavior signatures. IPS will again proactively allow you to block network traffic, or for example, use virtual patching to protect older devices from vulnerabilities. Like we said, the technology debt. I'm focused more on layer 3, 2, and 1 of the old PureDo model, while we must not forget layers 4 and 5, which is strictly the domain of IT. It has become established that the IT areas is much more advanced in terms of security than OT-ICS. Here, the product life cycle is much shorter and easier to implement modern solution. Therefore, IT is the first bastion for attackers to push through. In fact, there are many useful technologies or classes of solutions. I think in mature IT infrastructure, you can find technologies like MPLS, NAC, which is too difficult to handle in OT through the lack of the staff competence. In IT, we will often encounter PAM system, privileged access management, that can help us securely access the lower layers of our organization, or data leak protection system that will prevent the leakage of confidential data. Interesting technology is honeypots, which allow us to create a fake environment that attempts a potential attacker and subsequently allow us to isolate them. Unfortunately, companies that are yet to catch up with the cybersecurity will meet a wall in the form of financial entry threshold. The largest companies began the process of rearmament years ago. Of course, their budgets and human resources are much, much larger than those smaller companies. And this is one of the main reasons why smaller companies are struggling and trying to patch holes with the cheapest solutions.
Okay. Wow, that was quite a lot. It's very difficult to differentiate between IT and OT solutions in this this amount of information, and I kind of missed the management. Yeah, so we have quite a lot of the infrastructure part right now, IT and OT, and all solution for that. How do you approach this type of first steps, Krzysztof or Chris? If you can tell us how is the approach of Orange in this type of situation when you are starting with a new customer?
Well, starting with a new customer is always, well, the first step is always to understand the customer, yes, and that's what was already mentioned. Typically, the first step is the assessment of current state, to understand the current maturity, cybersecurity controls which are in place, but also how the organization is built. So also the operating model, what are the key processes, what really needs to be protected. So typically the first step is to really understand the customer, and also see what is the level of convergence. You said, Pavel, that sometimes it's hard really to distinguish the IT, OT, and so on. And there are different companies on different level of convergence. Basically, we see it as a major trend. So I saw it in the past from my own experience in the telco industry, which in the past used to be quite separate from IT. Now it's fully converged. And the same story is now with IT and OT. So it's sometimes it's really hard to distinguish. Yet, of course, the OT part has its specifics which have to be taken into account. And it's not always easy. Yes, so I know that many companies really struggle to build trust between IT and OT, and to really encourage collaboration, and that also requires a certain management attention and push from the management, which you mentioned, and really encouraging both teams to talk to each other. So we're coming back to the point of Marcel about the people. So understanding the dynamics of the organization is crucial. And then, of course, we go into the technical details. Yes, so we have to understand which controls, security mechanisms are in place, and we're talking, and there are three areas we can mention here. Yeah, the first one is the technical space, where we have to look into all the technical details, how the network is built, how it's segmented, what are the security mechanisms in place, and so on. So that's a technical discussion about security services. Then you have this organizational part to understand what are the policies in the company. Yes, what is if there is any information security management system in place? Do people basically know what to do? What are the processes and the policies they follow? So that's also very important. Yes, and then the third piece is the people. So again putting human at center, because on one hand, people are the weakest link. So you have to make sure that they have certain level of awareness. They require some trainings, and in OT space there might be slightly different flavor than in IT, for example. Yeah, due to different focus here on availability. Here in IT, it's mostly confidentiality. So we have to take into account. But on the other hand, you also need certain skills to build proper secure architecture. So, for example, you need an architect, a security architect, that who will not only design the security architecture, but also make sure that that it will be sustainable. So again, we're talking about certain governance here in combination with certain skills that will make sure that in the course of change management, in the changes in the infrastructure, the security posture will not degrade, will not decline. So certain skills have to be assured. Of course, they can be sometimes outsourced. You can have some. You can rely on service providers, but certain skills are simply also necessary. Yeah. So that maybe sounds complex, yes, but it is a complex topic. Yeah. So you have to have a holistic view, because if you don't identify the weak spots, the hackers will.
Yeah, that's true, and I think every one of us agrees that we have to invest time and resources to teach our staff to work on the tools we are giving them. But before we do that, we have to decide which kind of tools we want to use for it. So I would be very interested on Sherif's opinion just in a few minutes, because their solution is helping actually to eliminate part of the human problematics. But before that, Krzysztof, just one question more on the topic of infrastructure. So when we are deciding which type of infrastructure we want to introduce in our environment, in our production facility, first of all, what is the impact of our choices on the future of our cybersecurity? As a CEOs, we have to make some decisions, and maybe also which questions we should ask a cybersecurity expert before we decide on the right infrastructure.
All right. Yeah, of course. So infrastructure decisions have immense impact on cybersecurity, of course, and when they are done in cybersecurity in mind, they can really increase your resilience and secure business continuity. When cybersecurity is not taken into account, it can have a devastating impact, especially in Industry 4.0. Yeah, we heard a lot about fantastic solutions and modern technologies, but they all require connectivity. Yeah, so for Industry 4.0, cybersecurity is actually a key prerequisite. I would say even an enabler to implement Industry 4.0 solutions. Because you don't want to bring connectivity to the environment which is vulnerable. Now about making these decisions, of course, what to implement, that should come out from the assessment and risk assessment. This is where you have let's say a direction what really has to be implemented for security. for let's say operations, for regular operations, the infrastructure decisions are driven by basically by business, but cybersecurity has to be taken into account. And I would say I would maybe define two layers, when talking about infrastructure. So first of all, you have the component itself. So if you're introducing new equipment, if you're introducing, I don't know, automation equipment, PLCs, network components, new switches, routers, then new servers, maybe hyper-converged platform, and then applications, you have to make sure that whatever component you're introducing, it is secure. So, and that can be done, with some security testing and making sure that the supply chain is secure. This is what was mentioned in the very beginning. A supply chain is the key here, securing the supply chain. So you have to basically make sure that what you're buying, what you want to introduce in the network, is secure, and then you have to make sure it is also properly configured. You can have a wonderful tool, but wonderful, solutions, but if they're not properly configured, they can still be vulnerable. So what I would ask is that, okay, is the product that I want to introduce secure, and whether it's properly configured, and that can be verified. But there is also another piece, like the second layer, is the security architecture, because you cannot really, even if you have a nice secure piece of infrastructure, but you put it in the environment which is still vulnerable, which doesn't have, I don't know, proper level of segmentation, which can be accessed from internet, you're still exposed, yes, and so it has to come together. So it's not only about introducing secure pieces of infrastructure, but it's also making sure that the whole security architecture is in place. And of course, the sooner you do it, the better. If it's greenfield, you can start right from the beginning, from the right design of the security architecture, the careful selection of the infrastructure you want to introduce. While you're in a comfortable position. For the greenfield, in the brownfield solution, in the brownfield situation, you have to start with a proper assessment, which I mentioned, to understand the current situation and fill the gaps.
Yeah, but to be honest, in a greenfield, you are in cybersecurity space for 1 or 2 months, and then you are already the brownfield again for the rest of your life, right? So
that's why you need to have the processes to make it also sustainable.
Yeah, amazing. Thank you for the insights. That was really, really deep. Thank you. Sherif, I really curious about your opinion, because we are talking about the infrastructures and architecture and how we are setting goals, and how we have to teach people inside and take care of the outside threats. Can you give us some your point of view on the differences, or how to prioritize between securing for external threats and the internal ones? Can you elaborate a little bit on that, because you're very much in that space?
Comments in the chat box where we're talking about segregation and keeping IoT and ICT segregated. Add to it what my colleagues have shared now on OT specifically, and the need for more systems to be connected and to run on the cloud, and to have external participants, especially with us becoming more of a global world, and in this post-COVID era where a lot of people are working remotely or coming into their offices or their plants 2 to 3 days a week, or we have multiple plants that are connected and collaborating on different projects. it becomes very difficult to segregate and to keep everything isolated as we did earlier in the IT world. And you could have different zones and you could completely sort of isolate it and possibly also air gap it. This is no longer the case in the world of today. You have SCADA systems that are running all over the place. You have CAD/CAM files for design and manufacturing that could be running not on-prem, but elsewhere. You have remote workers that could be coming in, connecting into your network, either remotely, or they are contractors that are coming in to do a specific job. It becomes very complex just managing the influx of traffic that's running from all over the globe. And the only way to truly understand what's going on is by having the visibility of what's running from whom and on what system and what tool. So you need the visibility of this traffic and the authority and the authorization for these different stakeholders to be able to see it live, to see it in real time, and to flag it if something is not proper. And at the same time, make sure that it does not affect all of these wonderful enablement tools that we just referred to. So you need to have the tools in place that optimize the performance, optimize the bandwidth that you are using, without just throwing compute power and connectivity and hoping that it will solve the problem. Because once you do that, you open up yourself to even more of a threat. So you need to do it in an optimal way that protects your investment, at the same time that gives you the proper visibility to control and manage and possibly flag this traffic as it goes forward.
Yeah, that was amazing. Yesterday you had AppLogic Network has had a workshop, and I was really surprised how you can quarantine even smallest incidents which are not working in the way you are expecting them to work, and isolate them from your network. And this is on a software-only solution, which was also quite amazing. I think there will be a recording of this workshop later on, so if someone missed it yesterday, I highly recommend it. But this gives me gateway to think. I think quite vivid discussion on something. Since we are having here Sri, who is responsible for Google Cloud at Google, I have to ask the question about what's the better way to work on security? Is it on cloud or is on premise? And I will ask Srikan, maybe you can start. What's your thought on that? You are on both sides of the fence, so.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a very interesting question, and it can lead to a very intense debate as well. My experience, I've been working with, before I joined Google, I was managing Amazon from the global SI that I was working. So I've been involved in the cloud industry since the inception. And I was actually in cybersecurity. And the reason I got into cloud was during that time when cloud was new, the biggest barrier to cloud adoption was security. So people were thinking cloud is not secure, so we don't want to go to cloud. And that's where my skills
I hear the voices all the time from people who are meeting that it's still, at least that's what they are thinking. That's cloud, it's the insecure way of doing it.
No, I think that has passed. Right now, if you look at the fundamental issues, one is a cloud provider. So first is it's important to understand that security is always a shared responsibility. So the way the cloud providers operate is that, hey, I will take care of the security of the network, of the hardware, and of the operating system. And then the enterprise bring applications to run on top of that. And therefore, the cloud provider is responsible for some parts of the security, and the enterprise is responsible for some part of the security. As I said, it's a shared responsibility model. Having said that, there are many advantages that a cloud provider brings. One is in terms of economies of scale, threat intelligence. Like if you look at like the Googles, Amazons, Microsoft of the world, they work with thousands and thousands of companies. So anything happening in any of those companies, they're the first to know, and they're the first to react to it and maybe fix any vulnerabilities that are happening. So the economies of scale is humongous. Second is any fix that is there can be centrally managed. So there's an ongoing process of fixing vulnerabilities or reacting to situations. So it can be centrally managed for, and the updates, etc., that are happening, they can be automated as well. So the other important thing is the environment is changing. For example, like the newer and newer regulations coming, and the newer rules of engagement that are coming up. Like there's a government layer, there's an industry layer. All these are people are mandating. For example, retail industry, they have their own standards, right? So a cloud provider's environment is compliant to the changing needs. So they take care of it most of the time. And ultimately, I think, as I said, it's a shared responsibility model. And security is not something one can do alone. It's a huge task. And the way I like to see it is that, you can stop a hacker 99 times, but the hacker needs to get in only once. So one time the hacker has to win against the enterprise out of 100 times. That's all it takes. So to manage this kind of things at scale, I would say somebody can't do it alone. They need the support of, large enterprises, support of tools, support of processes, and education of people all put together.
Okay.
Yeah, I'll pause there, and I'd love to listen to people's reactions on this.
Sharif, maybe if I could give voice to you, because I know your solution works both on cloud and on premise, and in which case you are suggesting your customer to go on premise, and in which cases you are saying, okay, let's do it on cloud.
So I think the fundamental thing here is what my esteemed colleagues have referred to. I mean, it is about the visibility of what's running on your infrastructure, what's running on your network, regardless where this infrastructure or network is. If it is on premises and this is an investment decision that the company has made, then that's fine. You can still run the solution this way, but you need to make sure that you know what is running on your network and that it is not something that is mimicking something else, or you think that this is social media, but it's actually something completely different. Or you think that one of your cameras from the surveillance system is producing traffic, but it's actually somebody else that has maliciously connected to your network and is uploading something or is trying to access a certain network, and you are trusting it because it's part of your system. The same applies. Once you run your systems, your solutions on a cloud-based solution, it is the same. As long as you have the visibility, you know what is running on the network, you can identify the different traffic metrics, and not just through a blanket sort of classification that says, yeah, this is social media, or this is a Google DNS, or so that we're going to trust it because we know that we deal with them. No, you need to be able to identify what type of traffic is running, and let's say if you are allowing collaboration on a certain social media, Zoom, for example, you want to know that this is Zoom video, Zoom chatting, messaging. If it's a live event similar to the one that we are on today, you want to know that so that you can say, yes, this is possible, this is the right thing. And a lot of people that have implemented similar solutions got protected by virtue of I'd like to say coincidental, but this was proper planning. Once you know, I recall a case where WannaCry, this is 7 years ago, WannaCry was still a zero-day attack from a ransomware perspective. It went into hundreds of thousands of computers and did big damage. But in one country where we were implemented on a telco level, they were able to identify that this is not normal traffic, that this is not normal behavior, and they quarantined it early on until they discovered what it was, and then people started to flag a couple of hours later, yeah, this is an attack, and they were able to patch it up from a multinational perspective and protect their systems. So it is all about visibility. It is about knowledge and about simplified knowledge, because this is not the core business of manufacturers, to understand the complexities, especially in an ever encrypted world, of what's running on the network. So we need to give the tools to understand what's running, and then complement whatever security solution that exists, whatever cyber threat mitigation solution that exists. But once you know, you're able to act.
That sounds smart. Marcel, what's your thought on that? You are quite early in the process of implementing anything. What's your suggestions to your customers?
I think it's super interesting what we have been talking about so far when it comes to cloud, because I mean, we very often still have the discussions with our clients, like, should we go into the cloud? Should we not go into the cloud? What do we do with that? And I feel reminded of myself, like, I don't know, 15 years ago when cloud was very new in IT, and I have the feeling we're doing the same circle now again in OT. And in IT today, nobody asked if you should go in the cloud. I think there's no company that is not using it. And therefore, I guess in 5 years, maybe a bit more, we'll not have that discussion in OT anymore, because it will just come. Cloud is there to stay, and it will come. And we see that with big suppliers, like, for example, Siemens. Siemens is now running their ops center as a cloud native application. So I think the question is not if cloud will be coming into the OT space, but when and how do we do that securely? And I think here, and I like the comment before, that it's a shared responsibility. And it's a shared responsibility on so many different layers, actually, because you need to have the cloud environment secured, you need to have the application in the cloud secured, you need to have the communication between the factory and the cloud secured, and you need to have the factory secured. So the question is, where can we do a lot of these things? Of course, the cloud is one part, but then the other part that I think is really important is if we're opening up the factory to communicate outside, so to talk via the internet to the cloud provider, we need to think about how do we secure that edge? So how do we build secure edge gateways that allow a very specific communication to go to the cloud without hopping through the entire Purdue model into the enterprise level and then towards the cloud? But how can we build actually secure communication that is directly communicating with the factory? So let's assume you have your MES system, so your manufacturing execution system, running in the cloud, which is today possible. I mean, with the latencies that we have, it is there, you could do that. So you need to think, how do I enable this secure communication? How do I control the traffic that is flowing? I think this was something that was really interesting that we just talked about, that I make sure that only the communication that I allow is going towards the cloud, and only the commands that I actually want to process in my factory is coming back. So this secure edge is becoming really, really important. And therefore, we need to look at very different technologies that we can use along the way. The first part is that we need to step away from this very legacy protocols that we're still using a lot in OT. I mean, Modbus, Profibus, and so on. I mean, this is all very old. There's no security built in by default, but we have better things today. We have OPC UA and protocols like that allow a lot more security in our communication, so we can encrypt traffic and so on. And this is really helping the adoption of cloud as well, while it also is happening, supporting the implementation of secure communication within the factory itself. So this is the shift that is really, really helping the cause of security in the manufacturing space. And then the next part is that we need to see, how do we actually establish trustworthy communication partners? So something that we like, for example, to focus on is, how do I build a PKI, so public key infrastructure, in my manufacturing space, so that I can ensure that every communication partner is having a certificate. It's like a passport for a system, or an identity for a system, that I can be sure that all my communication partners along this communication chain, so SPS to my edge gateway to the MES system in the cloud, is actually a verified communication partner that is supposed to be in that communication, that I can encrypt the traffic along the way, which is something that is also very rare today in the manufacturing space, and then encrypt it also outside when it goes into the cloud. So coming back and doing the circle, it's like, but the cloud is there. It will be there. It will come, and I'm sure in a few years we'll see that in nearly every manufacturing space. But that also means we need to think security, not only securing on-prem infrastructure, but we need to secure on-prem, the communication between on-prem and the cloud, which means it makes it more complex. But there are the solutions. I think there's already a lot there that we can use today to make this happen and to make this work. So yeah, this is, I think, my thought on cloud, which is a fascinating topic, and I'm sure it will be there, and nobody will even question it in a few years.
So far, had Shrikant very easy life with you guys. So, Piotr, what's your take on on-prem? Are you on-prem person or are you a cloud person?
I think we have to divide this into two sections because if we are talking about critical infrastructure, where we on the PERA model, like I said, Pure 2, we are on the layer 2 and 1. We are very close to the process, to the production. I think we should use on-prem solutions because I don't know, even if we lose a connection to the cloud, it is a very, like you said, connection is very, very important. If we have only one ISP, we can't think about a cloud solution. We have to have a redundant connection to second ISP or more ISPs, because if we need to make a process and it should be computed in a cloud, it's a critical connection to the production. So I think, like I said on the start, you have to divide in the two sections and prioritize which we can do on premise and what we can do on cloud solutions. I think cloud solution for now, it's better to ERP system, MES system, something to which is computing business process, like KPIs, something like that. We could use to IoT solution in Industry 4.0, for example. Yes. So this is my
great. Since we are almost done with the 1 hour talk, Krzysztof, your short thoughts maybe on the topic also, so we heard from everyone, on premise or cloud.
I would say it's a business decision, because you can build a secure environment with this shared responsibility model, like it was said, and you can make it work in a secure way in both architectures, on-prem and cloud. And in many cases, customers even don't have that much choice, because more and more applications and systems they're moving to cloud simply. So that's the reality. Like Marcel said, in a few years, I don't think we will have that discussion. Of course, there will be certain use cases where on-prem might be preferred, like Piotr said. And it has to be simply carefully analyzed, but I would say both options are possible. It's just a matter how to do it in a secure way, and it is possible, right? I remember that discussion like 10 years ago or 15 years ago in IT, and it was pretty much the same. Now cloud is here, and it's I would say most of a lot of businesses is not the most is done on cloud environments. I expect the similar direction for OT, maybe apart from some specific pieces of infrastructure, especially in the lower layers closer to the process.
Okay, that's really great insights, guys. We are almost at the end of our hour, so let me summarize a little bit what I understand. And we as a CEOs, we have to take care definitely of setting right goals, right, for IT, OT, and management. So we have to make the triangle, which Marcel mentioned, and while looking for the goals, we have to take care about the infrastructure and deciding on-premise or on cloud based on business goals, as you mentioned. In the second step, we have to take care that our network gives us information what's going on in the network, and so we can refine and retune everything which was going on. And then we are in a brownfield quite quickly, so we have to really do it constantly and take care of the culture, that we are not pressed by changes from outside. So yeah, it's an ongoing battle, and I'm really glad that on a good side there are such amazing people like you guys on the panel. So if anyone wants to connect to anyone of those amazing people, let us know, and we connect you to them with a pleasure. Thank you so much. Thank you, Shri, for waking up at 6 a.m. I think it's very early in San Francisco. And for everyone else, thank you for joining me and giving your insights to everyone here. Thank you so much.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you, Pavel. Happy to be here.